Hey, this is Brandon from Adventure Syndicate. Just wanted to do a quick review of this rod by Slate Creek Company based out of Meridian, Idaho. The picture you see at the beginning of the video is actually the first fish I caught on this rod. It's a little over 13-pound Lahontan Cutthroat trout out of Pyramid Lake, Nevada. So as I talk about this rod, I'll be rolling some footage of that so you don't have to look at me the whole time that I do this review. The Slate Creek Fly Rod Company is again a small family-owned business based out of Idaho. With their rods, they're actually built in Chico, California. The specific rod I've been using is their new Switch series of fly rods built on Sage 1 blank. My specific rod is an 8-weight, 11-foot 6-inch fast action rod. If you go to their website, you'll notice that they still list it as an 11-foot built on the Sage Z-axis, but that's changed for the 2014 model year. Along with the rod, I also got this Sage 4500 series reel with a carbon fiber spool that's also offered as part of the rod package by Slate Creek. My switch rod. Well, I'd never really planned on getting a switch rod, and before getting this one, I knew relatively little about them. I don't live near any large rivers, and I don't spey cast very well. In fact, I pretty much suck at it. But what I was looking for was a rod longer than 10 feet that I could use for some stillwater fishing and lakes and such, with big fish and particularly a lot of wind. So think sandy beach, surf-like conditions. I really needed it to be able to cast a heavy sink tip line, but I wanted to be able to cast single-handed where I'm most comfortable and enter the switch rod. A switch rod is kind of a hybrid between a traditional single-handed, single overhead casting rod and a spey rod, which is cast two-handed. And you can kind of do both with it. Some would argue that you can't do either very well with it, but I've seemed to have some pretty good luck with it. The ratings on the switch rod are a little bit different than a standard rod. And that is one of the first things that I discovered when I switched over to this switch style rod. You can get switch specific lines for it for the weight rating, but if you're going to use a traditional type line, you really want to go 1 or 2 weight ratings above. So for example, this is an 8-weight, and I use a 9 or a 10-weight shooting head sinking line on it. I've had from 200 grain shooting heads on this all the way up to an Orvis Hydro's 450 grain sink tip line. And it doesn't do very well with the 200 grain. The line seemed pretty light for me. And up to the 450 grain, kind of turns it into a medium action rod, but it definitely has the spine in the rod to throw that much weight around. The current line I have on it now is a Gentini 300 grain fly line. I seem to like it. I can pretty consistently cast 100 feet, which is good for me. I'm not a distance champion fly line caster. Some of the things that I like about the rod is it's simplistic. It casts well. Even though it's an 8-weight, it doesn't feel like you're fighting a fish with a broomstick. It actually has quite a bit of action in it. It has worked well for windy conditions, and the length really gets that line out there compared to especially a 9-foot traditional. One of the things that I discovered accidentally was that this rod floats. I think it's because the reel is so light with the carbon fiber, and of course the rod is fairly light throughout its length, and it just pops right to the surface. It doesn't sink at all. Of course, I wouldn't suggest that you do that or test that in open water. Some of the negatives about it, for the price tag, it's a little bit simplistic. It has a little bit of colorful wrap down at the base towards the handle of silver and gray wrap, and then pretty much the rest of the guides are wrapped on with thread that you can't really see. It's covered in the same color high gloss as the rest of the rod. It doesn't really bother me that much. I'm a kind of no frills guy, but for others it may be one of those factors. One of the other things that I notice is that the cork handle has quite a bit of filler for an upper class, higher level type rod compared to some of the others that I've seen. One of the things is that the rod is so long that it can make landing a fish, especially if you're by yourself, a little bit more difficult. And you might actually want to run a little bit longer leader because of that. And you know, you're throwing around a pretty long stick, fly rod of course, and it can make your shoulder pretty sore by the end of the day, especially throwing a heavier line around. Other than those few little things, I've really enjoyed using this rod. I've been out with it about a dozen times and put quite a few hours on it, and look forward to putting some more hours on it. Thanks for watching. If you have any other questions about the rod, go ahead and hit me up, or you can visit their actual company at slatecreekflyrod.com. Thank you.